Hello, welcome to the Bunkers Hill Inn and to this week's Cats Whiskers TV, back on YouTube as usual. We'll be looking back, probably very briefly, at Panthers games over the weekend. We'll be inserting your Ask CW TV questions throughout the show, including about a certain person's social media presence on Monday. And then we'll be looking ahead to Panthers games this coming weekend against Sheffield and against Coventry. But first, it's the return of Paul Baum with the news.
I'm Paul Baum, and this is the news. Dave Sims arrives for work. Nottingham Panthers unveil locker room transformation. Head of the Department of Player Safety revealed. And that was the news.
Paul there with the news, and here he is. And Aaron as well. We're going to look back, well, first on Saturday night. I don't think we need to spend too long on that. We did a podcast, so you can hear all mine and Paul's thoughts on there. But, you know, a couple of days have gone by since that game. Any further reflection?
No.
Aaron, you weren't at the game. You've seen the highlights. Thoughts?
Obviously not a great performance from us. I kind of agree with what people would have heard over the last few days, that it looked as if Hull took their chances. They looked very sharp in front of net. But what I would say is that if the Panthers were playing to their ability, that some of those opportunities wouldn't have been given to Hull. But you have to give credit to Hull, but just very obviously disappointing from a Panthers point of view.
I think since the weekend thing I think it was such a shock. It was such a shock result in the way that we played. I mean, obviously we played so well against Hamburg, and I think defensively we've been excellent to start the season, and then everything just seemed to fall apart on Saturday, and it was totally out of character, because even in the games against Lillea, we still kept going for the whole 60 minutes. And it's not that the effort, I don't think, wasn't there on Saturday. It just, nothing seemed to be coming off.
Yeah, well, I think if I'd have been Corey Nielsen, the first thing I'd have done Sunday morning was to get Gary Moran to source him some barn doors and banjos, and they're probably the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. It was, it was all a lot of nice passing, moving the puck about, and then losing it. And then, we were given a lesson in how to finish, how to take your chances, and well, say the less said about the whole thing, the better, frankly.
Moving on to Sunday night and the game in Cardiff, which was a standalone Challenge Cup game, and the first period it just seemed to be carry on straight away from Saturday night, because for the first period I thought Panthers were pretty dreadful, but again Cardiff were very good and gave us a lesson in taking their chances. Yeah,
well, to be honest, I only watched the first period, and then I went and found something better to do. The filters on the Dyson needed cleaning, so I thought I'll go and do that instead. And I'm not really that bothered. I didn't see the rest of it. It's disappointing. It's it's two games, and I mean, hopefully that's all it'll be. But we've got a difficult weekend coming up. I know we'll touch on that later, but if you needed to come out of a slump, Coventry at home and Sheffield away wouldn't be the games you'd choose, would they?
No, not at all.
You'd probably choose all. That's not going to work, is it?
Aaron, you like me, watched the game on the webcast. I did pay. Yeah. First period, again, not great, but we didn't help ourselves with Nathan Robinson, and I know we had a sort of disagreement over text while this was going on, but Nathan Robinson getting a 5+ game. Fair or not?
I think he's a little bit unlucky, and my reasoning behind that is I think Lord kind of is there in Robinson's face. He's obviously trying to cause a bit of aggro and stuff like that. And I think personally, Robinson's just trying to get him off. He's trying to doesn't really want anything to do with Lord at that point. Yes, his stick then comes, and kind of touches Lord on the face.
Sticks him in the face, really.
Sticks it. I think that's sticks.
I thought it was lifted. But you could always recreate it with those brooms in the corner.
I think sticks him is that's with intent, and I don't think Robinson had intent of hitting him in the face with his stick. So I think for me, he can consider himself kind of a little bit unlucky. And then I think with some other decisions that happened later on in the game, I think Cardiff were very lucky to have some players left still on the ice. Personally,
I mean, I thought 5+ game was fair enough for Robinson, if I'm perfectly honest. I felt that he did aim his stick at Andrew Lord's face. I nearly called him Aaron Lord.
We've all wanted to do that.
And I thought fair enough. And it didn't help the team, obviously. The injury curse has struck again. In so many ways. And we ended the game with just 11 skaters. It just is not getting any better for us, is it?
It's not, but look, I'm not going to kind of moan about injuries and stuff like that. I think what we kind of have to give the Panthers credit for is when we went down to those skaters, I don't think I've ever I can't remember the last game that I watched, especially with the Panthers involved, where we were just running 2 lines. And that was kind of what hit home to me. So I think you kind of have to give the boys credit because they didn't give up, I don't think, in that Cardiff game. They played obviously to the best that they could with the fitness that they had, with the mental tiredness, etc. So I think from that point of view, we have to give them credit. The injuries, look, I mean, from reading, the website today, some of them don't look as serious as what they could be, because I kind of feared the worst when Lacko went down, because he couldn't even put any weight on his leg. So and then there's reports today that there is no fracture or anything like that on the X-ray, so that's positive. Obviously, it also seems that maybe some other of the lads are coming back. Maybe Clark this weekend, Higgins maybe not too far away. So I don't know. I think after last season, obviously it's not nice to have some injuries, but you're going to get them, and let's hope that we're maybe just getting them out of the way now, and the rest of the season will be quite kind of not safe but better.
One of the SCWTV questions we've had is from Kim Williams, and she says, with the injuries over the past 2 years, does there come a time when we ask about the club's physio and medical practices? I know this was something that you touched upon.
I asked the question as well. Nobody replied. But I think you've got to, injuries happen. But I think you've also got to question why we seem to get so many. We've had so many in the last 2 years. I mean, you say injuries happen, but a racehorse trainer prepares a racehorse to run. They don't prepare it to plough fields. But I just wonder if what we're doing, the training, the medical practices, whatever, is not preparing the team properly.
You say that, but if you look at the injuries we've had, I mean, Farmers was caused by a broken foot from being hit by a puck. Lakovic, hit by a puck. Yeah. Benedict, hit to the head. Mosey, it seems, hit to the head.
Shouldn't we have a comment from the Department of Player Safety by now? Then?
Well, we'll see. Chris Higgins was in the CHL game. He hurt his ankle with a check against the boards. That for me really can't be laid at the door of how we prepare our team medically.
Can it all be laid at the door of bad luck?
I think in those cases, yeah, they're just unlucky. Not
all of them.
But probably Clark had shoulder surgery in the summer, and he's not fit yet. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. Yeah. I think it is certainly this season. I think the majority of it is just bad luck. But
what if it keeps happening? Will you still think it's bad luck then?
Depends what the injury is. You can't legislate for people getting hit by a puck. It happens, and it hurts, and it can cause broken bones. That's nothing to do with how you are prepared.
Yeah, it is.
For a game. How?
Because you could be doing something that makes you more susceptible to broken bones.
Dear.
People out there know I'm right, Jono.
I disagree, Aaron.
I'm kind of going to sit in your camp, to be honest. I think when you go through the injuries which you did just list, they are game injuries. Apart from obviously Clarkey having shoulder surgery in the summer, Mark Lee came to us injured. I can't really remember an injury that you would say is either in training, but then again that's replicating a game. I don't know. I mean, I've spoke to Scott Poundle a few times, and I think, as a physio, he does the best that he can possibly do. And what I would say is, the Panthers players that have been injured, they're never really necessarily out for like a long period of time, or they end up going, getting cut, or because they can't fix the injury or whatever. It's kind of. Well, it takes 4 weeks, it's going to be 4 weeks. I just think we have had a bit of bad luck. But then I agree with Paul, if it goes on again this season as it did last season, you do have to kind of take a point of going, well, we can't have 2 years of exactly bad luck with the majority of the team getting injured. So I think at the moment I'm kind of with you in the sense of they are game injuries, it happens, it's a very physical sport, it's a contact sport, etc. These things are going to happen, and we'll just have to, like I said earlier, I just hope it's kind of getting it out of the way now, and we can kind of focus on the rest of the season with a full roster.
Another tweet from Tina Taylor. She says, with an injury crisis threatening again, should we sign cover and risk so-called checkbook hockey, or just suck it up? And we had another tweet from Antoine Marie-Jean from Panthers Hockey Live as well, who alluded to that point, but was also saying, does Neil Black stick his hand in his pocket for short-term replacements, or is the cupboard probably bare because of the Champions League?
Well, he has already spent money, hasn't he, so far on that, and I think, but at the same token, I think he has to, because he needs to generate income through the door. And if we keep losing because we're not, we're playing very short benched or whatever, there's going to be an element of the people that come, especially on the Saturday night games, who aren't going to keep coming if they keep losing.
I think that's a fair point.
My initial reaction would be no, I don't think he should. I think we kind of have to. Last season was such a massive upheaval of players, and look, every other club took the mick out of us for the revolving door of imports that we had, and I think what a lot of fans were kind of looking for this season was a settled side, a team that we would learn to like, learn to know how they got to play, and for the players to learn how their teammates played. So for me, if we're talking kind of short-term injuries or short to mid-term injuries, then I think we kind of have to suck it up and go, but we need to stick together as a team, and we'll do the best that we can do. And I think in that case, I would hope that most fans would appreciate that and accept that. I think if it goes wider and you're talking more and more and you are getting short bench, because then again that puts extra pressure, which can bring in more injuries. I think it's kind of like a balancing act. I wouldn't want to just see a load of 4 more imports walk through the door, and it's kind of like, what's it, just to cover people. I'd rather suck it up and get on with it and just accept that that's the situation at the time.
Okay. Another tweet from Colin Basford. He's on about Nathan Robinson. Now, we don't know if he's going to stay after the game in Hamburg next Tuesday. He says, what are our thoughts on him, and do we think he'll stay?
I don't know. Obviously he came here, the CHL was his shop window. Has he done enough? And he was certainly trying against Hamburg, so maybe he wants to. He will stay after the game in Hamburg. He'll stay in Hamburg, but we'll see.
I mean, I don't know. I've heard mixed reports, to be honest. I've heard some saying that he'd like to stay. I've then heard reports that the Panthers want him to stay, and they're trying to find the package for him, etc. Don't get me wrong, he's a quality hockey player. He's kind of in some games has stood out against the rest of our team, but I think him and Lacko are kind of getting an understanding together, which is a shame that Lacko's injured now, because that would have been nice to see kind of grow for these few games that we've potentially only got Robinson for. But if he goes, look, he's done a job for us. The one thing I would say about Robinson is I was kind of expecting a bit more end product. You know, you hear everybody go, "Oh, fantastic puck control, totally." You know, his skill, etc., and his speed is fantastic. But I'd be interested to know actually the numbers that he's put up, because you automatically think, and he was touted as our number one CHL import that we brought in. So that automatically makes you think, well, you know, there's going to be assists, there's going to be goals, and I'd be interested to see what his actual stats are, because my initial reaction would be they're not possibly as good as or as high as what we were possibly expecting. But don't get me wrong, if you're telling me that we can have Nathan Robinson for the rest of the season, I will certainly sign him up. So
yeah, me too. And I think the reason is I would really like to see him paired with Clark when Clark's back, because I think his speed and the way he can set people up with Clark's sniping abilities could be a very, very interesting partnership.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what Aaron said about him being the best of the CHL imports, I think he was, and you know, by a mile. Although we'll probably never know how good Mark Lee was. But I think, to be honest, the whole thing of bringing all those extra imports in, it's all fallen a bit flat, hasn't it? I mean, Cohen's gone, didn't impress. Wrightham's has gone, didn't impress.
Played,
yeah, Mark Lee
hasn't played.
Why is he still here?
Yeah, obviously it was.
I'd forgotten about him.
It was,
it
was a family issue that sent him home. So,
but I think it's all. I mean, yeah, it was the right thing to do, but I don't think it really worked.
Well, in the end, it sort of really didn't mean anything, did it?
No, I suppose it didn't. But you had to bring those bodies in, didn't you?
Yeah, of course you did. Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been a completely different result. But I'm just interested. Who would you put as centre then if you had Clark and Robinson? What would be your line?
I would like to see probably Clark, Robinson, maybe Bruce Graham on the line.
Then are you not taking Graham away from the Benedict Higgins line that everybody says is going to cause havoc in the league this season?
You could do it at the moment.
Yeah,
you could.
I mean, I think it doesn't look like that. Well, I mean, Higgins.
That's three left-handers as well on a line.
I know, but I just think Robinson with Clark and Graham, who are two snipers, I think could potentially score a lot of goals. So that.
But who's going to do your grinding in the corners? That's why I don't answer questions like that.
Anyway, to finish this segment, one final tweet comes from Ben Stretton. We've lost 3 regular season games on the trot now. Obviously, injuries don't help, but do you think there is a bigger problem?
Well, I checked the cage Saturday night, and the league's gone. So that's
after two games, that's got to be a record.
So all we've got to do now is concentrate on the cup competitions. Like I said earlier, you know, it's a weekend. You know, obviously the game against Coventry we lost. We had Green in goal. How much of an effect that made, don't know really. But I think I wouldn't want to be coming into this weekend in the position we're in right now. I think it's a pretty difficult weekend. Shorter bodies. I mean, according to Sheffield's website, who handily will tell you what's wrong with our players. Very good of them, isn't it? Well, actually, I think it's cheap and sums up this league perfectly. But there you are. We've signed a player called Mosley, and he's already injured.
That's the spell check on Sheffield's website for you.
That implies they do one.
Look, I think obviously it's never nice to lose, 3 games on the trot, not on the trot, but kind of league games and cup games, domestic season games if you want to call it. It's obviously not nice, but I mean, come on, to write it off now. I mean, for me, I think you're going to see these results. I think I said to you, I said to the coach as well after, Belfast fans now saying that their league's gone because they got thumped 6-1 at home to 5.
No, they'll be blaming us for it.
I think this season you're going to see these results. You're going to have weekends that aren't great from your team's point of view. It's going to bring the league closer together. A lot of teams have strengthened that you might not have usually counted in standings, etc. So I don't think we can expect any team to run away with games and the league or cup competition. So it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. You've just got to accept it and just hope that they don't turn into what Paul's kind of saying is that this weekend then becomes another downer, because we don't kind of want that going into the CHL as well, because it's not great. I think we want to end the CHL on kind of a high point. So I think this weekend coming against Coventry and then Sheffield is quite an important weekend for us, which we'll talk about.
This weekend's far more important than finishing the CHL on a high note, because at the end of the day we're going nowhere else in that. That's just nice to keep a bit of momentum going. Beyond that,
I didn't say more important. I just said it was.
No, I did. I'm just saying. I think that's what I think.
I mean, I just think it was a bad weekend. It's one of them things, and it shows with Belfast's result as well, which I think probably stopped it going too mad, because Belfast went and lost 6-1 at home to Fife, and I think
I'm surprised we haven't had more tweets from Fife fans about that.
But they're very, very happy, I'm sure.
I think as well the problem is it came off the best night in the club's history, and everybody was obviously thinking that this is going to be the start of us dominating, etc. So to win against Hamburg to then lose, I think makes it even more painful and kind of it's even more hurtful. So
after the Lord Mayor's show,
well, that's what's been said a lot of time, hasn't it? So it's kind of it's one weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the moment, guys. Going to move on to look at some other things that have happened in the ice hockey world over the past couple of days. Can you guys think of anything in particular might have happened? See if this jogs your memory. We've had a tweet from Liam McCausland, and I've lost it. There we go. What chance the EIHL will ever be taken seriously after today's, or yesterday's as it was now, latest social media debacle? And I think he may be talking about certain Mr. Sims's tweets there. Yeah, anyway, so, well, what can you say? What can you say about that? And for those that don't know, David Sims put some tweets out yesterday, basically warning that they were sexist before he put them out, to be fair to him. So he did put... It was like the Channel 4 red triangle. He did put a warning out there.
How old are you? If you can remember
I know. But
or me, because I can't.
What he then proceeded to tweet, which I'm not going to repeat, was, well, straight out of 1974, to be quite frank. Not a good image. Because I know you were incredibly vocal about this when it came out.
Look, the way I look at it, and I tweeted this, is, for the good that one club does for the league, there's always somebody that from another club that brings it back down to the level that it is. It's very hard to kind of put it into words of what you actually think, because you could go on I could go on a 20-minute rant about it, to be honest, but I just find it very disappointing that person thinks that that's okay. I find it disappointing that the club that employs that person thinks it's okay, because you don't see anything about it. You don't hear an apology or we as a club are not happy with this member of staff saying this. You don't see that, or I've not seen it, or I've not heard it. So from that point of view, I find it very disappointing, and I just find it again very disappointing that excuse me, I'll use the Panthers as an example, because we have played in the CHL and we are trying to get the Elite League out there in a positive frame and try to do some good for not just ourselves the league as well, and then you kind of get this from somebody that is quite popular in British ice hockey, and it kind of makes you think, well, what is the point? For me, I think, what is the point? What is the point of the Elite League ever trying to improve, ever trying to, to join these European leagues that are A, taken more seriously, B, more professional? It's kind of like we take one step forward and then we take 15 back. And how long does it go on for before people kind of get peed off with it?
Oh, I think people are already peed off with it. I think the reaction to it.
But it's still happening. You show me another sport in this country where somebody who could question the parentage of another team's people, got a bit lost there, who could say what he did about women's ice hockey, and and making sexist comments like this, and yet there are people queuing up to say, oh, he's good for British ice hockey. How is any of that good for British ice hockey?
But to look at the other side of the coin, sometimes, he does use his influence for good, and I think that there's a Sheffield fan, Amy Usher, who is suffering with cancer, and he's done a lot of campaigning. He's used his influence in a positive way there to get that recognised and to help Amy out, which is a real positive thing. So for me, I think it's fantastic that he does something like that. But then he doesn't spoils himself by putting the tweets out what he put yesterday.
I totally agree with that. The fundraising that they've done for Amy is fantastic, but you're talking about fundraising for an individual. And then you're now talking about the Elite League. They're two different things.
Oh yeah, I totally appreciate that.
He's used his popularity as David, from the Elite League for that, which is great. But the day-to-day running of the Elite League, etc., being involved in the Elite League is completely different to that. So
I was sort of making the point that he uses his influence in that way.
Yeah.
Why can't he? Why can't his influence within British ice hockey and how well known he is to help Amy? Why can't he use that influence to help British ice hockey instead of shooting it in the foot every time?
I'll tell you why. Because we're now standing here talking about it. We're giving him the oxygen of publicity, which things like this, they're as much about, like his comments about Jason Hewitt, which
Don't repeat.
Which I'm not going to repeat because, quite frankly, they shouldn't be. Or the things he said to Paul Wheeler.
Yeah,
all right, Paul Wheeler's no angel, but as somebody who is connected to the club, there's a world of difference between the likes of us saying something on here. We're not connected to the club in any way, shape, or form. We're not connected to anything. But if
we
you're
wouldn't.
connected, we wouldn't. But let's not go for the moral high ground here. We're not Sheffield fans. But if you're connected to a club, you can't say things like that, and you shouldn't be able to say things like that and get away with it. If the manager, whatever position, let's say Nottingham Forest down the road, came out and said, fans of Derby, they're a bunch of... Would he still be in a job?
No.
Would he still be lauded, sorry Aaron, I'm spelling it different, by so many people in the sport?
No.
Of course not.
No.
So why, just because we watch a smaller sport, why do we have to put up with it?
Well, of course, as we record this, nothing has been said, nothing has been talked about, so I suppose it's one of the things we see. What happens, if anything happens, I'm betting it'll get swept under the carpet like it usually does.
I bet he's had half a dozen people apply for it. I'd heard you'd gone for the job. I've seen the pictures. I posted the pictures.
Yes. Anyway, moving on.
I don't want to talk about that now.
No. Yeah, you really don't want to see me in thigh-high boots and latex.
Socks, as everybody else.
Anyway, moving on. Notts TV. We're going completely.
It's like watching the One Show, this.
So Notts TV started their new locker room show with Chris Ellis, new Panthers show. I think we all watched it last week. So thoughts on that?
I recognise the format from somewhere. I thought it was, it was good. It was a good start. Very enjoyable half hour. Nice to see poor lady agreeing with me on a lot of the comments about the Sheffield game, which always goes down well in our house.
What do you think of the... One thing I really enjoyed, and I think I've said this off camera, is the way they showed... the poor lady was doing analysis of all the time that we spent in Sheffield zone before the winning goal last week. And I really enjoyed that sort of thing, that they can show that sort of thing with a real expert talking about who really knows the game.
Oh yeah, there's no point in getting experts on like poor lady and not using their knowledge and what they're kind of there for. So I mean, I think with that, it will be ridiculous not to use that. Like I say, so yeah, I think it's a decent little half-an-hour programme, and I think obviously it seems like they're going to try and get more guests in. Corey, for example, and stuff. So I think it can only go from strength to strength, really. And I think it's just nice to see the Panthers get a bit of, TV time, if you want to call it that, for local people. So.
And I think it's like you said last week, there's no other club at the moment that has that sort of publicity from their local channel. I think it's probably something that may happen in Sheffield as they launch their local channel this week. But yeah, it's all good publicity for the club.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's 9 other teams that snap our hands off for the same thing, and it is. So it's about. I think we said again last week. It reaches about 1 million people. Notts TV, and that's a huge potential audience. So it can only be good.
Yeah. Okay. So a quick look ahead to the weekend with 2 matches. So Friday night at home to Coventry Blaze, again a Challenge Cup standalone game, and then Saturday away to Sheffield, first game at the Motorpoint Arena, again a standalone Challenge Cup game. For me, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen, or what sort of team, or how we're going to play when we don't even know who's going to be fit. I mean,
are you available?
Well, Corey, if you are really that desperate, I've still got my kit, but I'm sure you're not that desperate and never will be. So, but
best hope not, anyway.
Well, I'm not paid to watch it.
Well, I don't think I'd pay to watch me, to be perfectly honest. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, until we know what sort of team we're going to put out, it's very difficult to say what we think may happen.
Well, I'm not confident about either, really, I must admit.
I mean,
could be a hard weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say it's too. I mean, Coventry are doing very, very well. Top of the Elite League at the moment. Okay, they lost a couple of games at the weekend, but still looking very strong. Sheffield still look quite strong, although with a win and a loss this weekend. I mean, I think it's like you said earlier. I think we couldn't be really facing any 2 worse teams in the situation that we're in.
Well, I don't know. They're all difficult games, aren't they? And they to a certain degree. So I think what it does bring is it brings 2 local teams that adds a little bit of rivalry to it, adds a bit of spice maybe that could help the adrenaline, flow a little bit better. Look, I think hopefully we'll have a few more bodies back. Like I said earlier on in the programme, maybe there's talk of Clark being back. Don't even know whether Higgins might make an appearance at some stage. You never know. So I don't know. I think it's a perfect time to kind of see where the team is, as a team. Because if we're going to get anything out of the 2 games, it's not going to be by individual performances. It's going to be by playing as a team, which we have done in previous games, and that's kind of got us some of the results that we've had. So I think hopefully we'll see that kind of team ethic, the never say die attitude that we've kind of had in games played for the 60 minutes. And do you know what? At this precise moment in time, that's kind of all I could ask for, really, is that we go and give it a go. If we only have 14 skaters and we lose, then I'm not happy with it, but I accept it. So it's a tough weekend, but hey, what can you do?
No.
I mean, well, that's all you ever ask for, isn't it? That they go out and give everything.
And I think they will. I think they showed that on Sunday night, second period, down to 11 skaters, and just got themselves back into the game. And okay, tiredness, fatigue got to them in the end, but they put in a good shift on Sunday after the first period. So, and I think a replication of that effort that they showed in the second period and third period on Sunday over this weekend will, you can't really ask for anything more than that.
I think we'll get 2 points from the weekend.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll see what sort of bodies are available, because I don't really want to make a prediction without that at the moment.
Okay. You take those splinters out of your arse then, Jono.
I know what you could do.
What's that?
Ask Tyler Mosienko what he thinks is going to happen.
And on that note, I think we will finish it for this week. The show will be slightly earlier next week, probably around Sunday night, Monday, with the Hamburg game coming up on Tuesday, where myself and Aaron will be over in Germany. So, but me and Paul will be doing the show.
You bring me a present?
I will do, yeah. I'll bring you some beer back, don't you worry. But, so...
Will you be able to carry it on the...
Well, we'll see, without spelling it. So, anyway, until next week, thank you for joining us, as always. We'll see you then.